Hello and welcome in my economics class. Dear students, today we are going to study macroeconomics unit 2 money and banking, and we'll start new lesson, that is chapter 5 money. So before we going further, let me know you what we are going to study under this chapter, why we are studying this chapter. So the learning objectives of this chapter to complete understand about what is money, why it was needed, and what were the other system in the Indian economy before the money emerged. What is the functions of money and how the money runs and supply in the Indian economy. So before we proceed further, let us discuss about the term money. What is money? There are different opinions about money and its definition. One of given by Professor Walker, that is, money is what money does. That means simply it is defined its function. Money is anything which is commonly accepted as a medium of exchange. The money should be anything or any commodity or any thing which has the medium of exchange, which has a unit of value or a store of value, and which can be used for the future or further payments. Right? So in other words, money is anything which can overcome from the difficulties which were arising before the money emerged. Like during the barter system, whatever the problems were arising, like a lack of unit of value, lack of double coincidence of wants, lack of store of value, and deferred payment. So the money is a thing which can be solve all these problems which we were facing at the time of barter system. Now you want to know what is barter system, right? So this is the second question. What is barter system? Before the money emerged in the Indian economy, there were a system instead of money, that was barter system, or which we can say in the simple word commodity exchange system. Right? Commodity exchange system or barter system means exchanging of goods for the goods. For example, if I need a pen and I don't have money, because that time money was not emerged, right? Not defined. So in that case, I want to exchange my goods which is required by the person who has the pen required by me, right? So for this system, this process is called barter system or commodity exchange system, which is also called C2C economy. That means commodity to commodity economy. So in the other word, barter exchange system is a direct exchange of commodity for the other commodity. One more example, suppose I want 1 kg of rice, and for that I am ready to give 1 liter of cooking oil. So I need to find that person who's really required the cooking oil which I'm ready to give. And that person should also have the things which I require, that is 1 kg of rice. Understood? So while we both are interacting with each other directly and exchanging our commodities, so that type of term under the economy is called barter system or commodity exchange system. Right? So before us, our ancestors were using such a system to buy the things or to exchange the things. Right? So now you will be asking some questions in your mind are arising, that why the barter system is not existing now, right? Because it has some drawbacks, some problems, some limitation. While using the barter system or commodity exchange economy, the people were facing so many problems. The first and most important problem, that is double coincidence of wants. right? Now what is coincident? Coincident of wants means whatever things I required, it should be mandatory that the second person is ready to give it to me. Otherwise, there will be no exchange, no selling or purchasing. Right? So it was very difficult by that time that people should go and search that particular person who's having the required thing which we want. Otherwise, the selling and buying things or trading will not be possible, and the people will not able to survive for their livelihoods. Right? That's why it was the drawback or limitation. What was that? Double coincidence of wants. Double means both the person should have this commodity which they want to exchange. Just I had given the example of oil and rice, 1 kg of rice and 1 liter of oil. Suppose that I want 1 kg of rice instead of 1 liter of oil, cooking oil. And I'm not getting such a person who really want oil. So there will be difficulty to get the rice for me and for my family. You understood very well? So this is the problem of double coincidence of wants, right? Another problem was there, that is lack of unit of value or account. There was very difficult to accountability of the commodity. For example, that I found that person who wants to exchange his 1 kg of rice with my cooking oil, but that person is want 2 liter of cooking oil. In that case, the measurement and the accountability was not matching, right? So that problem, the value of accountability and unit of value were also the main problem. Okay, so this is also one of the drawback or the limitation. The third drawback or limitation was lack of standard of deferred payments. Deferred payments means here, students, the payments for the future purpose. For example, I took loan from somebody and I have to pay it to after 2 weeks or after 1 month. So for that I need to keep some of the commodity as a money to give it to them, right? But it is very difficult to keep that commodity for future purpose, right? So the commodities exchange were not possible for the future payments. That was also a biggest problem of barter system and commodity exchange system. The last problem is lack of store of value. Storage of value was also one of the problem. For example, you know that the things are getting lose its quality as we are keeping it for so long, right? For example, if we keep the grains will lose its quality, the insects will lose it or eat it, right? If we'll keep the furniture will also become old, right? And these commodities cannot be used as it is at the time of buying in the future. Are you getting? You heard the word depreciation. Each and every commodities are depreciated, right? So we can use it, we cannot keep it as so long as, for example, that I didn't find any person who wants to exchange his machinery with my furniture, right? So what I did, I don't require machinery now, but that person is required my furniture. So what I thought, that let us take it. Maybe in the future it will use. So by this I exchange my furniture with the persons of machinery, right? And I kept it for the future. But as it is every day depreciating, it is not as new as when I bought it, right? So it can be lose its working capacity, right? So that's why we cannot keep the commodity for as long as, and it cannot be new as it was at the time of buying, as long as. Understanding? Very well. So once again, what is the barter system? The barter system is a commodity exchange system which were very highly used by the people of India before the word money emerged. And why the barter system become failure? Because it has so many problems and drawbacks, such as first, lack of unit of value or accountability, lack of double coincidence of wants, lack of standard of deferred payment or the future payment, and lack of store of value. I hope you understood what is barter system and what was its drawbacks, right? Due to so many problems and drawbacks under the barter system or commodity exchange system, the Indian people thought that it should be something else in the economy for buying the goods and services, right? So they thought to introduce money to the Indian people, and that money from at the beginning till now it is in our economy and making us facilitate for buying and selling the things, right? So let's see the evolution of money. What was the money earlier at the time of our ancestors and what is now? So from the beginning of its introduction till the date, current date, what were the other money we will going to see. So the first money was commodity money, as we discussed under the barter system. Commodity money means when we required anything to buy, we need to give or exchange our commodity for the different commodities, right? That is called commodity money. Or in the other way, you can say barter system or commodity exchange money, right? In that case, the commodities were the value of money. After getting so many problems of commodity money, the Indian economy has introduced metallic money. Metallic money was quite popular after the commodity money, and it was very fascinating for the Indian people, right? So it makes easy to buy the things and selling the things, the metallic money, and it was very durable and easy to handle, as well as it can be divided in a small unit also, right? So we had also seen the metallic money, the coins, silver coin, golden coins, or coin of 1 rupees, coin of 5 rupees, coin of 10 rupees, like that. Understood? But the metallic money has also some problem. After 1930, the use of metallic money was discarded. Why it was discarded? Because the golden coin, the silver coin were in the trend that time. You knowing during the ministries of Rajas and Maharajas, they used to introduce metallic money, that is golden coin, bronze coin, silver coin, such as, right? But as the government has banned and wants to keep the 100% gold to himself, the other people were not having as much as gold and silver coin to satisfy their basic needs, right? So it was also a problem for buying and selling the things. They were only having the bronze coin, the copper coin, etc. But the silver and gold coin were only in the possessions of Rajas and Maharajas or government. Understood? So it was also a problem under the metallic money. And it was also very difficult to handle in a large transaction. Okay, for example, if somebody wants to buy his cow in 20,000 rupees, so under the coin, it is very difficult to count 20,000 coins, right? So it was very difficult under the handling of large transaction, or maybe 100 coins, 1,000 coins. It is very difficult to measure it, to count it. The metallic money had also the problem of transaction or transportation, right? If somebody wants to go to the city from the village, they have to carry the sack of the coins for buying the things, goods and services, right? So it was difficult that time to carry such a sack of coin and transporting from one place and say to the second place, right? So these were the problem faced by the Indian people under the time of metallic money. So what is the first money? The first money is commodity money, and thereafter second money emerged, that is metallic money. After that the third money emerged, that is also comes in trend now, paper money. You know all what is paper money? That is called currencies. Currencies of 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 100 rupees, etc. As the metal of silver and gold was very precious and was totally taken over by the government and the Raja Maharajas, the Indian people feel that there should be something which can be accessed by the common people also. So thereafter the paper money was emerged, and till now it is been using, right? So nowadays the paper money is controlled and regulated by whose? RBI, right? RBI of India, and it has the facilities of all those drawbacks which we were facing, Indian people were facing during the commodity exchange economy, right? Thereafter, after the paper money, the new technology has been emerged, that is plastic money or credit money, which we are using nowadays mostly. Okay, that is called electronic fund transfer, that is called debit and credit cards payments. Okay, through the debit card, through the plastic money, debit and credit card, we can buy anything, any goods and services from anywhere. There is no transportation problem, there is no storage of value problem, that is no deferred of payment problem, right? So this plastic money and the paper money were solve all the problem which we were facing during the barter system, right? It is very easy to handle, very secure also, and it can be carried anywhere, just in our pocket. So once again, when the money emerged, what was the first type of money? It was commodity money. Thereafter, the second money was introduced, that is metallic money. Then the third money has been introduced, paper money, and thereafter electronic money or bank or credit money, which is also called plastic money, right? So these were the evolution of money. I hope you understand. Now let's go further about the functions of money. Okay, so as we were facing many problems under the commodity money, the government introduced new term of money, new type of money, and such a new type of money has all the solution of problem, which is also called the functions of money. So the functions of money can be divided in the two parts, two types. First type is a primary or basic function, and second type is a secondary functions. The primary functions means the function of money which is most important for that purpose only which has been emerged, and secondary function means the other function apart from the important function, the other function of the money, right? So let's begin. The primary or basic function, main function of money for which it has been emerged. So the first function which we were facing under the problem, under the barter system problem, that is money as a unit of value or accountability. Nowadays, as after the emerge or after the introduction of money, paper money, plastic money, or credit money, we have so many facilities to account our currencies, our monies, right? Account means there is no any problem in accountability in the calculation, and it has a particular unit of value, right? For example, if you want to buy a 1 kg of rice, for that whatever the price decided by the seller, we can count it and give it to him, right? There is no such a problem that if there is no money or if the money is overvalued than the rice, so such type of problem will not arise after the emerge of money. Understanding? So the first basic function of money, that is unit of value. A money can be calculated as a particular unit for any commodity, any goods and services, and it has accurate accountability, right? For example, for buying 5 rupees of chocolate, we should not give 6 rupees or 10 rupees or 20 rupees. Exact 5 rupees we have to give and the seller will accept. Understand? The second most important or primary function is a medium of exchange. It is a best way to exchange the goods and the services. Understood? That means whatever things or commodity we want to buy and whatever services we want to buy, we can just exchange by giving the currencies or giving the money to the seller or serviceman. Understood? For example, if we want to buy the furniture or machinery, it is very easy to give such an amount for the furniture or for the machinery to the seller. But earlier it was very difficult to find such a coincidence about that commodity. Understanding? So these two functions are most important function, and for this purpose only the money has been introduced. What is this? First one is value of unit or accountability. Money has the exact or accurate value of unit and measurement or accountability. And the second most important function, that is exchange, right? Medium of exchange. It is a best medium. The money is a best medium to exchange any goods and services from it. Now let's proceed further to the secondary function of the money. The secondary functions are, as we discussed under the problem of barter system, a standard of deferred payments. Once again, deferred payments means the payments in the future purpose, right? So, under the standard of deferred payments, the money is also an adequate solution, right? We can keep money as long as after the evolution of plastic money, paper money or credit money, we can keep as much as money for the purpose of future payments. For example, just now I took a loan for my house and I need to pay every year loan, right? So whenever the due date will come, it is very easy for me to pay through the bank, through the paper money or through the check or through the credit and debit card. It is very easy, right? The money made the deferred payments very easy for the Indian people, for the public, right? Next, secondary function is store of value. The money is also providing the facility of store of value, right? Till as long as we can keep the money as a deposit, as a security for paying in the future, tomorrow, next month, next week, next year and after 20 years also, we can keep our money as a secure commodity, right? And after that particular time, we can give it. That means there is no problem in storing the money. Understand? It can be easily kept and saved in the bank or in the locker of our either or in the bank. Understood? So these were the basic, primary and other secondary functions of money. For this purpose only, the money has been introduced, and now we don't have any problem in buying and selling the things by the exchanging of money. Right? Students, you think once, when there was the policy of demonetization, when the currencies of 500 and 1000 were not in trend, we were facing so much problem, right? So think once, if there will be no money in the future, then what will happen? Right? So money is also a very important term in our Indian economy, not Indian, international economy. In the economy, it is very important, right? And provides very varieties of facilities, right? I hope you understood very well what is barter system, what were the drawbacks and problems of barter system, what is money, evolution of money, and what are the functions of money, right? So student, did you remember at the beginning I told you that there are very different meaning and definition given by the different people, right? So let's see the different meaning of money here. First of all, legal definition of money. The definition of money has been divided in the 4 parts. First is legal definition of money. Second is functional definition of money. Third is narrow or broad definition of money. And the last one is money and near money, right? Near money means what can be considered as money. So let us proceed with the legal definition of money. Legal tender money means the money which has the legal power or judicial power, which has been authorized to buy anything, for pay their debts, or to get the services by exchanging it. That is called legal tender money, which has the legal power, right? As the governments are providing us the currencies, all the currencies has the legal power by which we can buy anything. We can give as a loan, as a debt to the other, as well as get from them, and we can buy any services through the currencies of 1000, 2000 and so on, right? So these are called legal tender money, which has been authorized by the governor of the RBI, right? Have you seen the promise of governor written in the currency? Okay, so legal tender money has a 2 type. Limited legal tender, that is also called limited, means it has some limited power. And second is unlimited legal tender, that means it don't have limited, it has unlimited power to buy or exchange the things. So the first one is under the legal tender money, the first one is limited legal tender. So which type of money has the limited legal tender or limited legal power? Right, coins. Okay. So the coins are having the limited legal power. Why so limited legal power? We cannot buy a furniture, we cannot buy a fixed asset or the machinery or a bungalow with coin, because it has the limited power. Only few things, only a small things we can buy through the coin, like a chocolate, like a biscuit, like a other small commodities, right? Because it has a small power or limited power. Next is unlimited legal tender. Unlimited legal tender means all the currencies, all the paper money, credit money or bank money or bank deposits which are legally given power by the government, by the authorized person or RBI to use unlimited, right? For example, if we have to buy a bungalow or any fixed assets, we required paper money, plastic money or bank money, bank deposits, right? So these are the unlimited legal tender which has the unlimited power, not limited power. Understood? Very well. So student, did you understand properly what is legal tender money? The money which has limited and unlimited legal or authorized power given by the government to the public or common people, right? Such type of money is also called fiat money, right? Because it serves as a money on the order or fiat of the government, okay? Because it is authorized by the government and using after the order of government, that's why it is called fiat money. Under the legal definition of money, first we understood legal tender money, which has the two types, limited legal tender, which are coins, and unlimited legal tender, which are currency notes, right? Now the second definition under the legal definition of money is non-legal tender money. That means these are not authorized by the government to consider as a money. So these are the optional money. It can also be called optional money. That means instead of the currencies or coin, such type of money can also be exchanged, right? It has a power and authorized also, but not as much as coins and currencies. Understood? So what are such optional money or the money which are no legal authorization? These are draft, checks, bills of exchange. Have you heard the word negotiable instruments? Negotiable means which can be negotiated between the two people for the agreement of buying and selling the things, right? So these are called negotiable instrument. Apart from the money, whatever the other promissory notes or the promissory functions such as drafts, checks and bills of exchange are called negotiable instrument. These are also called non-legal tender money. That means these instruments has not been authorized by direct the government, but these are authorizing by their owners, right? For example, the check has not been issued or given authority by the government. The check can be issued by either me as a owner of it or by you as a owner of it. Understood? So that's why it does not have legal tender or authorization or power given by the government. It is a power given by the holder of such an instrument. Okay, that's why it is called optional money. So behalf of money it can be used. For example, if we are going to buy any fixed assets or any machinery or the plot or anything, for that we need to deal with these instruments such as checks, bank drafts and bills of exchange. For buying the securities as well as the shares and debentures, we require such types of optional money. So understood, dear students? Under the legal definition of money, we had studied two types, legal tender money and non-legal tender money. Legal tender which has the direct authority or which can be directly authorized by the government, and non-legal means which is not directly authorized by the government. Legal tenders examples are coins and currencies what are in trend now. And non-legal tender currencies money is bank drafts, checks, bills of exchange and other securities. I hope you understood very well. Now let's proceed the second definition, that is functional definition of money. So as we all know, it is given by its name, functional definition of money. That means whatever the function of money, right? So all those things which has the same function as the money can be considered money and can be called money, right? Listen once again. According to this definition, according to functional definition of money, whatever functions of money, we had discussed the four functions, primary function and secondary function. So whatever the things having the same functions as prior discussion will be called as a money. For example, what are the functions? A value of unit, a medium of exchange, a standard of deferred payments and a store of value. So whatever the things having the same function and performs the same activities will be called money, right? Understood? So it is also consist coins, paper currencies and negotiable instrument. Under this function, the money cannot be limited under either the coin or the currency or the negotiable instrument, right? So under this functional definition, what can be called as a money? A coin can also be called as a money because it has all four functions, all four activities which were same as the money. The currency or the paper money can also be called money, as well as the negotiable instruments, that means drafts, checks, bill of exchange and other bonds and securities will also comes under the money, right? Why so? Because it has the same function, same activity as the money has. Understood? Functional definition of money. Shall we proceed further? Now, the third definition of money as narrow versus broad money. Okay, narrow money means a money which has only limited use, and broad means which has the unlimited store of value. Let us discuss the first one, narrow definition of money. So, narrow definition of money means anything which is commonly accepted as a medium of exchange, right? Anything, either it is currencies or coins or any negotiable instrument, but which can be easily used as a medium of exchange. That means only one function is describing here, that is medium of exchange. Anything can be called as a narrow money which has the medium of exchange. Exchange for what? For buying the things, goods and services, or paying somebody, right? So example has given here what are including under the narrow money, that is currencies and the demand deposits, right? So these currencies and demand deposits only has a medium of exchange, a good medium of exchange. That's why these currencies and demand deposits are called narrow money. Understand? Narrow money means which has only one function of money. Medium of exchange is called narrow money. And which are the things can be called narrow money? like currencies, like demand deposits. Right? Demand deposit can also be exchanged by anything. For example, after class 12th, you are going to compete some competition exam to build up your career, right? For that, while you filling the form of that competitive exam, you need to pay the DD, demand deposits, okay, related to the particular agency or institution for which you are going to give exam. So that is called medium of exchange through the demand deposit. Some institutions are not accepting the currencies and some institutions are accepting. Mostly while we are facing the competition exam, such as the bank clerk exam, such as the CS exam, company secretary, or chartered accountant competition exam, entrance, which we can say, right? So these institutions are asking demand deposit. They are not asking the currencies. So the demand deposits are also a good medium of exchange. That's why it is called narrow money. The second type under this is broad definition of money, which has the broad value or function. What is the broadness here? It is based upon store of value function, right? So what is broadness here? It can be stored as long as, and it will be same value which is in the current will be in the future. For example, if the 1000 rupees note has a value right now 1000, will also be the same value after 10 years, after 5 years, right? So the store of value, it is the broad definition is based on the store of value. So what could be the money under the broad definition? Anything which is highly used as a store of value is called broad money, right? So what the broad money can be include under it? Anything means what are the things? So the things are currencies, demand deposits, saving deposits, and term deposits. These are the thing which can be called broad money. Understanding? The broad money means which has the higher degree of store of value, which can be stored as long as it is. So these things are currencies, demand deposits, saving deposits, and term deposits, right? Term deposits are the variety of deposits which we will discuss in the chapter banking. Understood, everyone? So on the basis of narrow versus broad money, there are two types of money has been defined: narrow definition and broad definition. Narrow definition means which has only the medium of exchange, and broad means which can be kept as long as a store of value. Understood? Now let's proceed to the last definition of money, that is money and near money. Okay? So under the money and near money, there are two types of money. Two definition has been given. First, money itself, and second, the thing which is near about the money or the substitute of money. So as we know, what is money? The money which has the legal tender or legal authority from the government, which can be used as a medium of exchange or payment power, which can be kept for the further use or for the future payment, as well as the same value can be stored as long as. Okay, so these are the things under the money. These things are paper currencies, coins, and demand deposits, right? Usually in that operational function, we can call money as cash, right? So whenever we use the word money in our mind, the image of cash is designed, right? So what is the cash? It is the most liquid form of money. Most liquid means it can be generated anytime, anywhere, and can be exchanged immediately, right? Transferred immediately. So money and near money means the actual thing of money or value of money, which has the legal authorized by the government, which has the medium, a perfect medium of exchange, which has the value to pay in the future, as well as can be stored as long as in the same unit, right? But near money, what could be the near money? Which is not money but can be used as a money, right? That means a close substitution of money. So what should be the close substitution? Means which can easily be converted into the cash, right? So what should be these? These are bonds, shares and precious metals like gold and silver. So these are the near money which can be easily convert into the cash or currencies, paper money, right? And these are the close substitute of the money. So near money means the thing which can be used behalf of the money, or which can be considered as a money and can be easily converted into the money, right? For example, suppose during this lockdown, the people are facing so many financial problems. So during this time, they wants to get something or buy something. So what they have to do? Sometime for paying their loans, they have to arrange the cash, right? And in nowadays, it is very difficult to get the cash because many are not getting the salaries, right? So what the families are doing? The people are converting their gold into the cash, selling their gold and getting the cash. So this process is called near money. Understood very well? Okay. So by this we had seen the 4 different definitions given by the economist in the 4 different category. The first one was legal definition of money. Second was functional definition of money. Third, narrow versus broad definition of money. And fourth, money and near money. Okay, which can be used as a substitute, a good substitute of money. I hope you understand these definitions of money, right? Now let's proceed further. Money supply. What is money supply? Okay, as we know, supply means circulating in the economy, right? So what would be the money supply? Money supply refers to the total stock of money which is circulating in an economy at a particular period of time or point of time. Okay, for example, during the financial year, I guess you all are knowing what is financial year, which is been starting from 1st April to 31st March, right? So, from 1st April till the 31st March, my money is circulating in whatever area or in the economy, like in the market, in the public or in the bank, are called money supply. Understanding? Once again, suppose I am having money at my home in my locker, 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees in my bank deposits, 2,000 rupees I had given loan to somebody, and 10,000 rupees I need to get from the bank, okay, as a maturity of deposits, term deposits, right? So all this money, whatever spread all over in the economy, is called money supply. Once again, the total sum of the money which has been running or functioning in the economy at a particular point of time is called money supply. Just as example I had given, from 1st April till the 31st March, my money is circulating at my home, at the bank, to the other people, or etc. So these functions of my money, this circulation of my money or functioning of my money is called money supply. Understood? The money supply can be include two components. First one is, as we always discussing, currencies held by the public and the bank and other institutions, right? Currency means not only the paper money. Currency means coins and paper money, right? So the total currency which is held by the public or the government, also known as currency held outside bank, right? Second, all the deposits held by the commercial bank, right? As I give an example of mine, some money is at my home, my locker, some are in bank, some are with the other people as a loan. So this all total of money will be components of money supply. Understanding? Once again, the money supply includes the two components. First, currencies. Currencies means paper money, and the coins, which is held by us, by the private agencies, by the firm or institutions, okay, factories, institutions. And net demand deposits, all the deposits in the commercial banks, okay, are called net demand deposit, and they both are the components of money supply. Understood? Students, you don't get confused about the money supply. The supply of the government who's supplying the money or publishing the money through the RBI will not comes under the money supply, right? Money supply will be the money of the individual or the firm or the factories, right, or the business people. The government will not be including under the money supply. Understood? Because they are the authority of publishing or printing the currencies, paper money, right? So what cannot be included in the money supply? The amount of coins or paper currency which is held by the commercial bank for their cash reserves. What are the cash reserve? We are going to study in the chapter banking, right? So commercial banks also has to keep some reserve, some cash reserve in the account of Reserve Bank, RBI. So such a deposit will not be called as a money supply. Second, the stock of gold held with the central bank. Whatever the stock of gold the central bank is having, okay, behalf of the government, will not be called as a money supply. So money supply means it is the money of a common people, okay, or a firm. Understanding? So these monies will only be called money supply. The money of government, the money of central bank, the deposits of commercial banks, it won't be called as a money supply, right? Okay, now let's see further the last topic of this chapter, components of money supply. Okay, what are the main components of money supply? In this year board class 12th economics exam, one question has been asked, 1 marks of question I guess, in which it has been asked that tell the two components of money, right? Money supply. So it is cash or demand deposits. Okay, let's see. The components of money supply, as we discussed already, the two components we had discussed, currencies and net demand deposits, right? So these two are only in our syllabus, the rest are not. Okay, so let us discuss broadly the currency held by the currencies. Currencies, as I told, including the coins and paper money. Okay, so what the currencies are including in the money supply? What are the currencies? So the currencies which is held by the individual or common public, common people, right? Like I, like you, like your parents. Okay, so all those currencies which we are having wherever means in our home, in our pocket, or in the bank account will comes under the money supply. And the second was demand deposits, right? So the demand deposit means whatever we had deposited into the bank will also be called as a money supply. So under the components of money supply, we had discussed currencies held by the public, means whatever the cash or coin we have right now in our home will comes under the money supply. And secondly, demand deposits means all the deposits of bank which we had. Usually demand deposit means such type of deposits which can be withdrawn by the demand of us. For example, I have a saving deposits in any of the bank, and whenever I demand to withdraw money from that deposit, the commercial banks are liable to give it to me. So such type of deposits are called demand deposits. Okay, once again, demand deposits are all those deposits which can be asked any time by the owner of it from the commercial bank, right? Just I had given the example that I had deposited 5,000 as a saving bank account, and whenever I required it, I go to bank and can get it. On the demand of me, they have to give some money to me. That is called demand deposits, right? Okay. So once again, the components of money supply, what I said, there are two components, currencies and net demand deposits. So currencies means what? All the cash held by the common people or the public, and the agencies means the firms, right? Production unit. And all the deposits which we are having in any of the commercial bank. We means the common people or the production unit or firm, right? Not government, not RBI. Okay, understood? Very well. Now let's proceed further. Measures of money supply. Measures of money supply means how we can measure the supply of money, right? That means we know there are two components. What are these? Currencies of general public, currencies of the individual, and net demand deposit. We know these are the two components, but how it can be measured, right? That we will study. Okay, so in India there are 4 measures of money supply. Okay, 4 methods are given. By this we can calculate the total amount of money supply. But in our syllabus, we have to study only 2. First method, that is called M1, money supply 1 or measurement 1. Second, measurement 2, right? 4 are there, but we need to study only 2. I'll introduce all 4, but for the exam purpose, you have to study measure first or measure second, right? So now let's see under the money measure 1, how we can calculate the total value of money which is supplied in the economy. So first one, as we know, that is currencies, coin and paper held by us. Okay, coin and paper money held by the common people, the general public or the firm. Secondly, we know that demand deposits, the net demand deposit, whatever the deposited in the bank. Okay, net demand deposits of the bank, this can be withdrawn at any time by the bank account holder. like I had given the example of mine, right? So measure 1 including C. C refers to the currencies. Currencies means coins and paper note held by us. Second, DD refers to the net demand deposits, means all the deposits which we have been deposited into the bank. And OD. OD means other deposits, right? OD means other deposits. Other deposit, which are the other deposit? These are other deposits with RBI, okay, as behalf of the government. For example, like we have purchased the stock or shares of foreign countries, right? Or of any authorized bank in the foreign countries. So that will be comes under the other deposits. Understood? So while we are measuring the money supply, first measurement 1, we need to calculate first of all the currencies which has coin and paper money. Secondly, the deposits of ours, demand deposits. And third, the other deposit if we are having in the other bank or in the outside the countries, right? The second measurement of money is M2. M2, it is include M1. M1 means currency, demand deposit and other deposit. Apart from these three, it is including what else? Yes, saving deposits with post office, right? It is also include the saving deposits, demand deposit plus saving deposits. So measure 2, the measurement of 2 describes the cash which is include coins and paper money, the net demand deposits, the other deposits. Apart from these 3, saving deposits from the post office, right? If we have any deposit in the post office or saving banks, so this will also be calculated in the supply of money. But in which method? Measurement 2 or method 2. Understood? Very well. Now third method is called broad money, right? Broad money means what we had studied? Store of value, right? So it is a widely used measurement which is include the store of value. That means for the future purpose, if we have any deposit, will also comes under the method 3 or measurement 3. Okay. Store or value means which we had stored or deposit for the future purpose. So what are such deposit? Have you any idea? Fixed deposit. Have you heard it? For the future purpose, for after 5 years, after 10 years, we are getting the total amount of it, right? So this is store of value, also called broad money, right? So under the third method, it is including currencies which are coins and paper money, net demand deposits along with other deposits, as well as saving deposits of bank, commercial banks and the post office. Apart from these, what extra it is depositing? Net time deposit. That means all the term or time deposit like fixed assets, fixed deposit or recurring deposit. This we will study in the chapter banking. Okay. And the last one is measurement 4. It is including measurement 1, 2 and 3. Apart from these 3, total deposit with the post office or whatever deposit we have in the boundary of our country, wherever, will comes under this fourth method, right? Fourth measurement. Even I'm having money at my home, in my any of the bank, even I have stored it for the future purpose, and even I had given to any of the people who is residing in this country or in the boundary of this country, okay, territory of this country. All the money will be calculated under this fourth method, M4. So at the end, I hope you all understood what is money, what were the requirement of introducing the term money, what is the barter system or commodity exchange system, what were the drawbacks and the problems of barter system, what were the evolution of money, how the money functions in the economy, the supply of money, what are the components of money, and how the supply of money can be calculated or measured. I hope you like this video and you want further videos like this. Okay, till then, be safe, keep studying and take care.